want you to take this moment while I set up my screen to breathe deeply once, whatever deeply might mean for you. Slightly deeper than you were breathing before. That's good enough. So let's do that once. And then a second time. I loved that exercise so much. And it's a really good segue for what we're going to be doing. So some of you might know I'm Paloma Medina. I own 1111 Supply. It's now a fully online store, now in 2020. But one of the things that I completely nerd out about is kind of what we just got to do, which is what is the intersection of beautiful tools, everything from creative tools to like nerdy tools, and how to make every day a little bit better for ourselves. So good segue from drawing and talking about emotions, because what we're going to be doing is, so you need pen and paper. You don't need coloring things, but if you already have them handy, they might be helpful. So we're just going to dive into it. And I'm going to give you a prompt. I want you to we'll do 1 minute, but I want you to start writing down in your pen, paper, notebook, whatever you might have. We're almost at the end of 2020, right? I want you to write down, what did this year teach you? You won't be sharing this. So just collect some thoughts and we'll reconvene in 1 minute. So, as some of you saw in the description, what we're going to be doing here is a series of prompts, just like the one we're kind of doing right now, to kind of set you on a place so that you can create a strategy for your life, your work life, your home life. Now they are kind of two in the same. For what is it that you need to recharge? And we're going to get a little bit psychological with it, because as some of you know, one of the things I obsess about is psychology and neuroscience. So with that, let us explore this question, which is, now that you've been thinking about what the year taught you, and I invite you after this session to kind of go back and keep adding answers to that first question, but I want us to think about, what did this year reveal to you about your core needs? It might be one of the lessons. And so some of you who are used to getting talks from me and hearing me just nerd out about this, you're like, oh yeah, I know what she's going to talk about. For those of you who are new, there are essentially these 6 core needs. Now, a lot of us used to think of just physical needs or chemical needs. We used to think of them like vitamin C. You need that. You will die without it eventually, right? Sleep, you need that. That's a physical need. And obviously those things also support brain health, which supports emotional health, which supports also back physical health. But there's these other 6 core needs that we do not talk enough about and have a ton of neuroscience about them. So feel free to ask me afterwards if you want to nerd out on the neuroscience. But the 6 essentially are belonging, that sense that you are loved, that you are welcomed, that you are valued as part of a crew. That could be 200 people, could be 4 people. But that's the first core need. The second one is improvement, a sense of progress, that your skills are making progress, that you are improving, your life is improving, that your career is improving, that you are helping others make progress in their lives. That's the second. The third is choice. My number 1 core need, by the way. Essentially autonomy, decision-making power over things that matter to you in your life. I don't want autonomy about everything, but I want it about key aspects of my life. And if I don't have enough autonomy, I will get angry, I'll get cranky, and I will eventually start wilting. So think about which of these core needs as I go through them, which might matter even more to you. And then we'll come back to the original prompt. The fourth one is fairness, justice, equality, right? It's a pretty big one. The fifth is predictability. Do we have certainty about our future, or at least key aspects of our future? So that, 2020, a little rough on predictability for most of us, I would say, right? And the last one is status. Now, no one likes to usually admit that status is one of their biggest core needs, but it is one of my biggest core needs, so I can proudly kind of stand up for that one. And status essentially isn't just that you are loved by the group, but that you are unique, that you are specifically, uniquely significant to the group, which might explain why I'm a trainer, because sometimes I get to have a little status from it. I don't need it all the time, but I don't want to work in the shadows. So those are the 6. Again, I could do, and I do whole workshops on the 6, but now that you kind of have a sense of the 6, let's go back to this question. By the way, they spell biceps. They are in this order, not because that is how the hierarchy for each of us has our own hierarchy of the 6. So I mentioned that my number 1 is choice, and my number 2 is improvement. Now I know that because I've gotten to work with them a lot, but for now, don't worry too much about that. Biceps, by the way, so you can remember them. Fun acronym. But here's the thing about core needs. Just like chemical needs like vitamin C, right? And just like physical needs like just general nutrition and carbs, for example, the brain also is hardwired to scan for them, the limbic brain. That's the fight or flight center. And this is important to note about the 6 core needs because it means that if the limbic brain decides that one of the 6 core needs is threatened, it is wired to go into a stress state. And if that continues and you do nothing about that core need feeling threatened, you find no way to mitigate or fix it, now you've got chronic inflammation, right? So this idea that, for example, if your sense of belonging is threatened, if you feel rejected by your group, if you feel heartbroken, if you feel very distant and isolated, like many of us do right now, the idea that this doesn't matter is not true. Neuroscience tells us it actually will long-term affect your health, also short-term will affect your health. So when we talk about core needs, we are talking about physical, emotional, psychological health. Also, by the way, if you keep having your core needs threatened, you also will experience something called cognitive drain, which means you're not even intellectually delivering the same results as if, for the most part, your core needs were met. Now, life is a series of us managing these core needs, but for now, I want you to take time with this question. Of the 6 biceps, which do you want to be most intentional about in 2021? I'm going to put them back up. So just like underline them or write down the 2. Just write down 2. That's a lot. Which 2 do you want to be the most intentional about in 2020? 2021. 2020, good riddance. Let's take a minute for that. Okay. I'm going to hurry us along because I want to make sure that I get to the last question. So for me, even though they are not my top 2, I would say actually predictability is my least important core need. And then 2020 happened. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my God, this is what it feels like to have predictability threatened. I've never felt this feeling before. And so it makes sense that all of the tools and my life skills, my life hacks that I used to use when one of my core needs was threatened, I feel like that's not working as well because I'm not used to this core need feeling threatened. So these are my two. Belonging, by the way, because, right, we're going to get into that. So now what I want you to do is write down 1 or 2 examples. But what are your in particular ideal ways of getting those core needs met? Because for me, FaceTime is like dead time. I mean, FaceTime, the software. Like when I talk on the phone with someone or on FaceTime, it has 0 impact on my core need of belonging. It's fascinating. Get nothing from it. And I mean nothing. Sometimes I'm just more tired. And so it was really helpful for me to be like, whoa, when do I feel a sense of belonging, a sense of connection? When I was like, oh, when I just get one-on-one walk time with someone, when I saw my friend Heather for 10 minutes on her porch, 6 feet apart with masks on, just seeing her eyes, I felt that. Also, I got a letter from one of my nephews who's 9 years old, and I felt it. So I was like, oh, letters. Pretty different than some of you. Predictability. This one I wrote down, I call it my parachute cord, like the cord you pull on your parachute. I realized as an entrepreneur in 2021, a small business owner, I don't know how to create predictability, like financial predictability for myself. It's really terrifying. It's a terrifying year. So instead, I made a different kind of predictability. I said, I'm going to fill in this statement for myself. I'm going to do the math. I need to fill out the statement. I need to make X amount of money per month by such and such date. Because if I don't, like for example, I need to make X amount in revenue per month from the online store by December 31st. Because if I don't, I shut the store down and I go and get a salary job. Now, by the way, I hope to never have to do that. But just writing this down told me I have choice. I can tap into one of my other core needs and realize if I really wanted to, and I really am scared about financial unpredictability, let's create a parachute cord statement. So I know if I really want to, I'll know when to pull the cord and get out. Okay. So also I built in some predictability and realized I want recurring friend times. Like I want to say every other Tuesday, I see my friend for 30 minutes and we go on a walk. So I want you to try it now. And we're going to close there. So take the last minute, answer this one for yourself. So I want to be mindful of folks' times. Those of you who want to stay, we're going to do the last prompt where essentially we create that strategy. But for those of you who have to go, I want to honor your time. So those of you who are staying, let us do this. Because the key thing isn't just validating how core needs show up for you and how you actually get them met. In the end, what I've learned is that frequency is everything. And by that, I mean, I want you to think about either color coding or symbol coding. Which of the ones that you've identified do you need on a daily level, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis? Because I do not need a daily walk or porch visit or letter. I'm actually just fine. I do think I need it on a weekly level for my physical and emotional health to be stable. My parachute cord, I do not want to be tallying my daily revenue and freaking out about if it's getting me closer or further from this statement. That is too much frequency to check in with that one. I do want to check in with it monthly so I have a sense of where it's headed. I don't want to wait until December 31st to look at my money, right? And also, I actually just need 1 or 2 recurring times with friends. I don't need those, you know, it can be like once the first Tuesdays I get to see this person. The first Tuesdays I do a long phone call with this friend. So do that now. You can either use color or you can use a symbol, because what we're going to be doing with it is essentially you then, after this session, will need a little more time based on which ones are, say, yellow for weekly or blue for monthly. Where are you going to track how you're doing? How are you going to track it? Right? With color or with symbols? Is it going to be on your planner and your calendar? And do you need any other visual or social accountability to stay intentional about them? Do you want to ask a friend that's maybe on this, you know, in this actual call right now with us, hey, do you want to check in 2 weeks about how we're doing with this? Because you can track it by yourself. So I'm going to start this little video. And I'm going to link to the person that made us help us do this. So this person essentially, you can kind of see yoga. I do not have my glasses on, but this person is using color to track the things that they need for both emotional health, for their core needs, thus physical health. And that way they can kind of see, oh, wait, I don't have enough yellow dots. I need to recheck in on why that's happening. Or look at me getting all those red dots every week. What? Which, by the way, taps into that core need progress, which we all need to some degree. So go ahead and take another minute to see if you want to do what's the color that you might use, what's like maybe a symbol. And then of course, where are you going to track it? You can do it on a digital calendar too, that uses color coding pretty easily. And if you have questions, you can put them into the chat window. So let's take a minute now. Thanks, Caitlin, for the props. Yeah, so you might guess that that is why I sell color dots, by the way, is people love them. We also use planners, we have trackers, essentially all the tools. This is why I obsess so much about this stuff. So the tools, whatever tool you choose, it needs to be something that you physically keep touching. So make sure that it's not a calendar that is like hiding under your desk or something right now and you're never going to put it on your wall, because then it's not going to help you visually be like, oh, right, that core need. How am I doing with that core need? So it can be as simple as on the back of a piece of paper that you stick to your wall, just saying week 1, week 2, week 3, and you just write, and then you like, it can be that simple. Obviously, I want you to buy a calendar for me, you know, cool, but you don't have to. Just think of, how might I keep this visual? Where is a place on my desk, in my notebook, in my planner, on my digital environment, where I always, every day, no matter what, I'm there, like I see it. So some of you use stickies. I'll actually show you, right? And you put them on your laptop. So I put mine usually up against the top or right next to my trackpad. That can be simple too. So, okay, I want to make sure that everyone gets to keep going on their day, but you know where to find me. Please feel free to DM me, email me, find me on Instagram. I love answering your questions. And often if I get a question enough, I'll make a video about it. Like I just did, I just posted one actually about focus and productivity. So thank you for letting me go over. It's awesome spending time with you all. Happy strategizing.